I'm going to do a little how-to video on changing the bandsaw tires on my old 1950s Delta bandsaw. This thing has got these old, I think they're probably the original tires on it, and they're worn slightly concave and are also hard as a rock. And I replaced tires like this before on another bandsaw, and these suckers are glued on. In fact, you can see the old brown glue a little bit in places. So I expect these to be a real pain to take off. And the tires I'm going to put on are these dudes. These newfangled urethane tires. And they're a stretch fit. They fit on there so tight, and they're kind of grippy sticky, that you don't need to glue them, thank God. Got these for like 25 bucks and free shipping off of eBay from one of the vendors on there that specializes in, you know, tool parts for shop tools. So I expect this to be a bit of a pain, and I've got to get this tire off and then clean the glue out of this track. Getting this one off is not too bad. You just unbolt it and wiggle it off the hub. This bottom one, however, I'm not sure I can actually get that off. I remember when I got this bandsaw and cleaned it up and painted it, that this thing was stuck, and I didn't want to go crazy on it. I didn't really need to at the time, so I just left it. So I'm going to start with the top one. So let me get this thing off. I don't need to show you how to do that. You should know. And fixture it up in the vise, I think. This is what I came up with to clamp it down. I've clamped other things down like this. Scrap piece of steel I use for all kinds of things, and I got lucky actually, and the bearings just pushed out of this with my finger. They weren't stuck. I didn't have to drive them out. Your mileage may vary. And I've got a pad eye. I don't know if you can see it well or not. I've just got a machine pad eye bolt clamped in the vise really tight, sticking up. Drop this down over it. This edge right here on the other side, this flange, is sitting on the machine part of the jaws underneath. And just tighten this sucker down. Don't want to get too awful crazy with it, because you can slide the eye up out of the vise jaws. But it's enough to hold it in place. Now I'm going to attack this rim. I'm going to attack this rim with, well, I'm going to try several things. First of all, I'm just going to try a raggedy old chisel and see if I can start pulling this off. I got a feeling it's going to be a beast. Okay, excuse my mess. I'm right in the middle of remodeling the other side of this shop, so many things are like piled up right there. And yes, that is an outboard motor sitting right there underneath all that insulation leftovers. All right, I'm going to attempt to peel this off here while you guys look over my shoulder. Don't know how it's going to go. Okay, this is actually going better than I thought it would. Wow. Some sort of old rubber cement in there, but it's still not hard. You see, this has just lost it. Oh, cool! I can break it off with my fingers. Hold on. Where nothing's gotten to it around behind it. The rubber still looks pretty good. Wow, this is going easier than I thought it would. Smell of old rotten rubber. Wow, that went quicker. I thought that was going to be a fight. But as you can see, it's stretched out like crazy. So let me pull this up here in the camera. It's kind of hard to see it, but you see that edges, it's all split up, and it's still, gotta give them credit. This thing right here is probably from the 1950s, and it's still fairly soft. But it's The drive one on the bottom is much rougher for obvious reasons, because that's where all the drive comes from. Neat. Now I got to get this stuff off, which I think I'm going to go after that with the wire cut brush on an angle grinder. So let me break that out. Okay, it looks like this stuff is going to peel off fairly easily, so I just got the drill with a little cheesy little brush on it, and that looks like it's plenty to get this mess off of here. Probably noticed we got a lot more light now. I popped the back door open so you guys can see what's going on, but let me give this a quick going over. I want to be sure I get right down the edge of these flanges here. I want this thing to run level. It doesn't have to. This doesn't have to be perfectly clean, mind you. I don't really want to take the paint off of it either. But this wheel has a crown built into it, and that crown is supposed to transfer over to the tire, which is actually just a flat band. They don't try to mold the crown into the band. So I'm just going to flip the camera off. I don't want to bore you guys to death, and go the rest of the way around this thing. This should be fun. I've got these two clamps on here, sort of like you might use tire levers to change a tire, to hold these, to guide this and hold this down. But yeah, this thing is a lot smaller than I anticipated, so I'm going to try to work it on there, and if it doesn't want to go, if I don't have enough strength in my hands to pull it on, I'm going to put it over my foot. I'll take it off and put it over my foot a little bit and stretch it, but only enough, just barely. So I got a couple of screwdrivers up here that are going to help me hopefully roll this thing on. So let's try it. Woohoo! Whoops. Alright, now I'll try to move this guy around and grab this up right here. Tighten that up so I don't slip off. Back off. Oh yeah. Yeah. Woo! Watch that. That'll hurt. Okay. That was fun. It fits. It's like it's going to have to, work in a little bit. But I'm glad I really cleaned those corners out as well, because it goes right, all the way from one side of that groove to the other. Well, there you got it. I'm going to try to do the other one in place. Okay, this one is glued on there, and really well. I think, if I recall correctly, many years ago, that I glued this tire back on because it was slipping. Now, I probably really ought to have changed that tire then, but, wait till So the plan is, I'm going to get this thing turning, and I'm going to use this piece of wood I got sitting here as the to rest my chisel on, and I'm going to take my scraper for the wood lathe, and I'm just going to peel as much of this thing off as I can. Oh, it smells lovely. blade and dig in. Otherwise I might launch this chisel across the room. And you can't see it, but I got my head and face well back from this. Glue I use, but that stuff is hard as a rock. Notice when I hit that glue, it's right on the edge of the rim, that buildup. I should pause here and say, don't try this at home. But if you do have to do this at home, if you get hurt, don't blame me. Because I'm telling you ahead of time, this is a bit risky. Don't do this if you've never turned any wood before, because you really need the feel to know whether you're going to gouge in or not. Ouch! Ouch! I'm going to go put on the full face sheet. Notice I'm keeping this chisel way up like this, mainly because this board is a little bit lower than the center line, and you really need to scrape pretty much on the center line. So I'm going right above the center of the axle shaft, so it's less likely to put that plane of that bevel right there, right above the line going to that, right above the axle shaft. Down to the last little bit of it now. You might not be able to see this, but I'm seeing a little spark here and there. Alright, let me stop that and let's take a look at it. Spot right there. Huh. So the question is, do I scrape it some more, or do I go get the drill and wire brush as I run it, which will actually make the wire brushing effect more so if you go the opposite directions. So I think I'm going to hit it a little bit more with the scraper. I think that's about all I'll be able to go with the scraper. Starting to cut metal. I'm going to give it a go with the drill. It would probably work just fine like that. I'll tell you, it probably would. I'm looking up above as I rotate the thing, and I'm not seeing any high spots. And it doesn't really have to be pretty under here. So I think I'm going to stretch the tire on like that. Come back when I got this thing back together, because I guess you guys don't need to see another tire stretching once you've seen that once. That's enough for a lifetime. Well, there we go then. It's on. I have the blade back on intentioned. And it runs smoother by a long ways and quieter. Still doesn't run dead smooth. This one has always had some run out in the top wheel, but it doesn't seem to really phase anything in the long run. By the time the blade gets down here and it's, you set these rollers so that it just barely touches the back of the blade when it's running free. It's perfectly straight through the guide, so it doesn't have any back and forth oscillation here. And that bottom tire was a bit of a pistol to get on, but I used the clamp and rolled it on, stuck this screwdriver underneath it and rolled it on like that all the way around as I pushed behind it on with my hand and fed the front of it, and I had it clamped right here and over here with these clamps, and it was a bit of a bear working on it because it was up in the air and this casting is in the way, but it was doable. It wasn't worth taking it apart. So before I throw the covers back on, move this stuff off to the side here. I'll flip it on for just a bit. You see that little bit of run out the wheels have. Maybe after these tires settle on and get evenly distributed around the wheel, some of that will go, but it doesn't affect how things move down here. And this bottom wheel runs really smooth, so that's good. All in all, if you don't have these, if your bandsaw is fairly new and it didn't come with these urethane tires, they're definitely a must-do upgrade. And pretty much the last set of tires this bandsaw will ever see. Maybe if it lasts another, I don't know, 50 years, the next guy might have to replace them. But by then, we'll probably have laser tools in our shop will be as common as table saws are now. Who knows? Much better. Even though the blade is getting near the end of its life, it's kind of dull. Made a good cut. Do it. Put the orange bandsaw tires on. It's a great upgrade.